Hello, hello, hello. Once again, digital world. Welcome back to another episode of Spliced In Later. Our third for the week in our back-to-back celebration of brand new movies that have been released. We review after review after review. This will be my last one for the week. The thing that I want to review that comes out later today, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, I'll let that lay over till next week because, let's give you a break from me for just a couple of days. But the reviews so far have been relatively good, I think. I was fairly impressed with Disenchanted, and I really liked Glass Onion. And I've had some good reactions to those episodes, some good discussion points about them, whether people are interested in seeing them or not based on my reviews or whatever. Or maybe you haven't listened to any of them, and you're only here because of the movie that I'm reviewing today, because it's in relation to one specific thing that you want to hear. And if that's true, welcome. I hope you don't leave while I do this. But today's third and final review for the week is touching on a franchise and a world that we focus on a lot here on Spliced In Later, which is the Disney animated classics series of films that have been going on for 1930s, I think, was Snow White. There's over 60 of them. Encanto came out last year. That was the 60th film. So this year we have our 61st Disney animated classic. It's called Strange World, starring the voice talents of Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal, among others, and set in a unique world and telling a unique story. Well, the themes aren't unique, but the situations is something that Disney has not done in the last few films. It's moved away from its general formula, which may or may not be successful. If you are a fan of the generic Disney formula of her heroine, who is probably from a family of royals or something, who has to go on a musical quest to prove herself and rise above challenges, that's not what you're going to get in this one. This one, I got a lot of vibes from the old Atlantis the Lost Empire and Treasure Planet style adventure Disney films, which are not musicals and tended to not resonate well with people on original release. They have their cult followings now, so maybe Strange World will take the same approach. In terms of how I feel about it, I quite liked it. I think it's not going to be one of my favorite Disney films. It's not going to crack any top 10s I can see in the near future. And if I want an adventure-style film from Disney, I probably will just focus instead on Atlantis and Treasure Planet. But I appreciate what this film's intentions was and what it was trying to do. And one thing that Disney is always good at is they know how to go to the emotions and touch on themes that we can all relate to in the real world. In this instance, the relationships between fathers and sons and grandfathers and grandsons and all of that stuff as well. And how people may or may not be like their fathers or strive to be different or follow in their footsteps or unknowingly have that sort of connection, all of that stuff, which has been addressed in many movies before. So it's not really touching on something brand spanking new. But we live in 2022. You're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of movies that have a unique idea at exploring a relationship that hasn't been explored already. So we'll get into it because I don't have that much to say about it. A quick review is that I do recommend it. I think it's a solid Disney film. Not one of their best, but certainly not one of their worst. And I think it's worth giving it a try. I think the reviews for it at the moment are pretty average. The general consensus seems to be good, not great, which I think is fair and relevant. But it's no Frozen or Zootopia or Moana. So just lower your expectations, I think. If Disney can't hit a 10 out of 10 film every single time, they can get pretty close, but not all the time. So Strange World is a love letter, a homage, a tribute to back in the old days, those old pulp magazine style adventure stories. Or those old adventure TV serials with the excited narrator at the start who's like, here's our favorite interpreter reporter, he's on his way to save the day, blah, 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 all that stuff. and an allusion to old adventure stories that have inspired the constant adventure stories we get now. So, Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Even a little bit of Indiana Jones in here. But basically, Strange World, our main character is Searcher Clade, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, but it focuses primarily on him as well as his father, Jaeger Clade, voiced by Dennis Quaid, and also Searcher's son, Ethan. And then they've got their family along for the ride as well, including, interestingly enough, their dog who has 3 legs. There's no reason in the story that he does, he just does. And that's cool. I like dog representation where it shows that dogs with 3 legs, or 1 leg, or no leg, can still live normal lives and be a part of the adventure. So that was great. The dog was my favorite part of the movie. But basically, the grandfather, Jaeger Clade, is a well-known, famous adventurer / explorer from this place called Avalonia, which is in this little valley surrounded by mountains. And Jaeger's dream is to climb the mountains and see what's on the other side. He trains his son, Searcher, to be just like him and takes him on these adventures. But very clearly, it's established that Searcher doesn't really want to be an adventurer. He doesn't have that nose for adventure like his father, and is only really going along with it because his father tells him to. On one of their expeditions, they find this plant, which Searcher realizes has the potential to provide unlimited power to Avalonia. As such, they don't need to go exploring. They can just use the plant. And Jaeger gets upset that he won't go on the adventure, climbs off into the mountains, and disappears. We then flash forward into the present day. Searcher is now a farmer. He's farming all this special plant which gives everybody power. Basically, it provides electricity to Avalonia, and he's training his son to be just like him, to be a farmer. But you can tell that his son isn't that interested in following in his father's footsteps. Sounds familiar to a certain problem that they had not too long ago between Searcher and Jaeger. Anyway, make of that what you will. Unfortunately, it turns out this miracle plant is dying for some reason. So an expedition put together by the leader of Avalonia's, I nearly say Andalasia. It's been tripping me up this week that Disenchanted we had Andalasia and Strange World we have Avalonia. So I apologize if I say one that's wrong, because it's going to happen, I think. Anyway, the leader wants to do an expedition to follow the roots of these plants down underneath the earth to figure out why they're dying. Needs Searcher to come because he's an expert in the plants. He agrees. Naturally, his son sneaks onto the expedition because he wants to come with, also dragging along Searcher's wife and their dog, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, following the roots, discovers that beneath their world is a completely new, brand new, crazy world full of strange creatures and plant life and organisms that are very dangerous and potentially could kill every single one of them. Also down there is Jaeger Clade, who's been living down there for 25 years. I think that's how long it's been since they were last reunited. So he, of course, joins back in on the adventure. And then basically it's just the Clades trying to survive this crazy, strange new world and all of its problems and violent tendencies that are there, to figure out why the plants are dying, and then potentially, possibly also fulfill Jaeger's dream of seeing what's on the other side of the mountains. Basically it. What I really liked about the movie 100% is this world that they go and visit that's underneath Avalonia, because it, from an animation point, is very artistic and looks incredible, and there's some crazy designs that are very unique. It's not like they go to this world and it's like, oh yeah, that's a dog, it's just a funny shaped dog. The organisms and creatures that they encounter are very unique, and once the story sort of reveals how this world operates, it makes a lot of sense why they are what they are and how they operate. As with most Disney stories, they pick up a little friend along the way called Splat, who's just this blob. He reminds me a lot of Stitch. Splat doesn't speak. He basically talks through squeaking or actions, but he's a bit of a troublemaker in the beginning. He's really out to cause trouble for everybody else, and he's out for number one. And then once kindness is shown to him, Splat sort of becomes the MVP of the movie. He has some really funny, laughed out loud comedy moments, but I really enjoyed how the animation were able to get him to emote when he has no voice. Of the Clades, Search is my favorite. That's probably biased because he's voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal. I love Jake Gyllenhaal in everything he's ever been. And Jake Gyllenhaal is really great voicing him as well. He makes Searcher a very relatable character. Speaking as someone who has a father, and I think most people do, you can definitely relate with that bond that you would have with a father. That sense that you look up to him, want to be like him, appease him, but then as you get older, you also have your own dreams, your own desires, and you want to pursue them. And they may not line up with what your father has planned for you. And then that same problem that you try to avoid ends up happening with your son. So you get a lot of that. You get the antagonism between Jaeger and Searcher, and then that awkwardness between Searcher and Ethan. I thought Dennis Quaid's Jaeger Clade, the adventurer, was a lot of fun as well. He really threw himself into that whole old-timey Pulp Fiction. I'm an adventurer. It's in my blood. I'm going to explore because that's what I do. There's a lot of enthusiasm there. The primary relationship I think that is the most entertaining and intriguing to watch is between Jaeger and Searcher. Searcher and his son is not as interesting because I think if you have a brain, you know what they're going to do with the movie and how that's going to end up. I will say it's nice. Searcher's son, Ethan, he is good representation for LGBTQ. But unfortunately, I'm still a little annoyed because it's set up in a way that if this movie is shown in any other country that doesn't allow that sort of thing, you can cut out those scenes and it has no changing on the plot whatsoever. Disney, I get you might be trying, but you need to do a movie where it is the point of the movie. It is relevant to the plot. It drives the story along. Putting this stuff in sneakily, saying, "Look, we're being representative. We embrace all cultures in a way that we can remove them if need be to make our movie profitable in other countries." Not there. So at this moment, it's just annoying me when you do stuff like that. Commit full-heartedly and make it important, rather than just, here it is, look, we're aware. In terms of the story is intriguing, but at some point you do sort of realize what's going to happen. That being said, that's only when it comes to the relationship side of the story. The Strange World, as I said, is very interesting and unique, and I enjoyed the exploration of it. And the actual twist of where they were and how the world Avalonia operates with the Strange World and the outside world took me a little by surprise. Maybe I wasn't paying that much attention, but there are clues in the movie, much like a murder mystery like Glass Onion, where people ask questions where now if I go back and watch the movie, I'll be like, oh, okay, so they were alluding at what this place ends up actually being. I think I wanted it to be more like Atlantis and Treasure Planet than it ever wanted to be, but I also think the movie was afraid to commit to that. It is an adventure-style story, which means we have our crew of characters besides the main characters that go on this journey, this quest. But aside from maybe there's 3 other characters that I think get a name and get a little bit of character study, but they're not important. They don't do anything to further the plot. They don't have any important moments, except there's one character called Caspian, voiced by Dopinder from Deadpool, but he's just played for comedic effect and his comedy didn't always land. The pilot is voiced by Alan Tudyk in a nice little reference to his role in Firefly, but that's just a reference, it's not a character. And the captain of this ship, so you have the quest is led by the president of Avalonia, but she also has a ship and there's a captain of the ship. I only know she was a captain because they said, this is the captain. But boy, oh boy, was she more than happy to disappear from the movie and allow the Clades to run her ship for her. If you've seen Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you can see the story beats that they're going through. To Disney's credit, they commit to that sort of style of adventure, and the creatures that they encounter are quite terrifying if you think about it. And there's even a death. It's one death, and it's completely out of place with everything else that's going on. But it sticks. It's not we fix it at the end. It happens at the start as well, and I'm like, oh, cool. All right, Disney's going to commit to the whole people can die on this quest. But no. no one was important enough to even kill, I guess. Which makes me a little sad. I wish they'd committed to that whole concept more, because I think that would have been pretty awesome. Finally, I think my overall opinion of Strange World is a 7 out of 10, much like Disenchanted. I think it's a solid movie. I think it's got some really cool animation design, and they're delving into concepts that Disney hasn't done for a while, doing things a little bit different to the formula that they've done a few times over with movies like Moana and Frozen and Encanto. Their homage to pulp magazine adventure stories, I think, is pretty faithful, and it's made with an understanding of the concept and a lot of love put into it, I think. And the emphasis on father-son relationships makes for a lot of emotion and very relatable for a lot of people watching. And I think the characters that they bother to focus on, mainly the Clades, are interesting, and the voice acting put into it by Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid and all that is solid stuff. It's just a little too safe for my liking. It doesn't really commit to what they want to do. They've done it better with Atlantis and Treasure Planet, and people tend to not think they're particularly great either. And it's fairly predictable how the movie is going to end and what's going to happen, which alleviates a lot of the tension, I think. But overall, a solid entry into the Disney animated classics world. Certainly not a bad film in any sense of the word. Certainly worth seeing in the cinemas if you get a chance to. It's coming out with a lot of other movies, but it is Disney, so I expect it should do pretty well. But word of mouth might make you go, oh, they don't sing and dance. It might not be worth checking out. It's definitely worth checking out. Just don't expect to be blown away. That's all I'm saying. There, well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. It was good. This was a good week. Disenchanted, Glass Onion, Strange World. 3 very different movies, exploring 3 very different genres, ultimately all being entertaining. Some a lot more than others. Glass Onion is the winner of the week, but not a single moment was wasted watching these movies. And I hope not a single moment was wasted listening to the reviews of these movies, because I had fun doing that. As I said, I will be back next week. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which will supposedly close out Phase 4 of the MCU, not Black Panther as they announced. Whatever. It's a fun little Christmas adventure for the Guardians. That's available on Disney Plus at the end of today, which I will of course be watching, but I probably won't get my review up for it until my normal episode time next week. Maybe, unless I decide I've got a free moment. I don't know. Basically, just keep your eyes and ears out, because that episode will drop at some point between now and Tuesday. So until then, thank you very much for listening. I love and appreciate you all as always. It's always a treat talking to you, and I hope to do so again very soon. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.